Okay, enlighten me. What the hell did I just watch? Seriously. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation was released in 1994. It was directed by Henkel and stars Renée Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. It makes the fourth film in the franchise, and it follows the story of a group of teens on prom night who survives a car accident in the Texas backwoods, who then wanders to an old farmhouse where they are pursued by Leatherface and his cannibalistic family. Welcome back, guys, to my Texas Chainsaw Massacre film review series. I have already viewed the first three. If you have not seen those yet, I suggest you do so. I'll have them down in the link below. And I will be reviewing every single one of these films leading up to the new one, which starts streaming on Netflix on February 18th, followed by our ranking. Now, let me go on record and saying this was the first one I noticed. It's not the first one I watched, thank God, but it's the first one I noticed before I even started watching this franchise. Thank God I started with the original. When it came to this one, not a single impression befell me, even as a kid. When I got into this franchise, I watched the first three, majorly impressed. When I got to the fourth one, and keep in mind I was still young, not a single thing about this scared me. There wasn't a single moment, a single thing about the next generation that scared me, that impressed me at all, even as a kid. And keep in mind, I had to have been like 12 or 13 when I first got into this. That's saying a lot. But to be remotely fair, to throw some equality of positives to this film, was the surrounding. So after the story starts, after the kids gets into that wreck, and they survive, and then they start walking down the back roads of this Texas road, the atmosphere was actually pretty interesting. You get all this fog, and the way it was shot, like you keep on thinking that they're being followed. You have Renée Zellweger and the other kids just following along each other, and then they keep on looking back, and you see all the fog. You can barely see what was going on, and that's kind of what intrigued me about that particular scene.
Okay, who's there?
You just kept on having a sense that they were being followed. And in a actual good horror film, that's good to have. Plus, I like the homage where Leatherface captures the one girl and puts her in that freezer box and then hooks her on that hook from the back, which is exactly what Gunnar Hansen did in the original. And then he knocked out the guy with a hammer. So there was two homages from the original that I actually appreciated. But that's the only positives I can truly give, sadly. So sliding into the mixed, I gotta go with Jenny, played by Renée Zellweger. She was fine as the final girl. She definitely had her moments when she's standing up to Velma or to Matthew McConaughey's character, which is the craziest in this film, and the family. She definitely has her moments. She definitely puts the woman scorned message in that meaning.
Yes, it.
Yeah. Touch me! Don't you ever touch me!
But in the end, I never really thought that much of this actor. She's one of those actresses, or actors, whatever you want to call it, that she don't pop up much on my radar. The only other movie I remember seeing her in, that I've seen her in, period, was Me, Myself, and Irene. Which is two totally different genres, I know, but she's just one of those actresses that just don't hit my radar that much. And when I do see her, I'm not that impressed, but in Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, she does have her moments. Especially as the final girl, she has her moments where you actually do cheer for her.
No. I'm gonna leave, and no one is gonna stop me. You sit the fuck down and shut up.
And now for the long slew of negatives, and I've got a bunch. This movie was just not that good. It was just the definite run of the whole entire franchise. So get into the negatives, starting with the direction. And this is what baffles me. Kim Henkel takes over directing duties for this film, who was actually a part of the original and how iconic that film was. It just really shocked me to the core, knowing how he chose to make this film. It was lazy. It was uninteresting. I'm so sorry, dude, but I just gotta be honest. It was not the best way to do this one. This one was the weakest. It was the dumbest. The Next Generation, he just dropped the ball completely. I mean, I don't know if there's even any more balls left after this film. Because the plot was just nothing new to it. There's nothing cohesive. It was like a bad version of 3 with a lot of nonsense humor that goes nowhere. It's just nothing here. It's just nothing here that really grabs me at all. Like, in the slightest. The characters is lazy. There's nothing about the characters other than Jenny. There's nothing about the characters, about the kids, even about the family, that really remotely interested me. And it's funny, that was actually Kim Henkel's decision. It was intended for his characters to be uninteresting and cartoonish. Just because your intentions are good doesn't make it so. It just doesn't. It doesn't work. Just stop it. Stop it. Nothing about them stood out. They were stupid. They were lazy. They were just... Nothing about them just stood out to me. I didn't care about a single one. They didn't do a good character build-up at all, which is what you need for you to at least give a shit about the characters in the slightest. No, nothing. Nothing here. I just felt like that they were there to be killed, especially the kids. And not the best way either, because there was a lack of carnage candy. And I know I talk about how the original had like no blood and gore whatsoever, but at least it was done in a much more stylistic way. It was done in a much more iconic way. And the Next Generation, they didn't put in any effort. It was basically atrocious, the way everything was put out. You wouldn't even think that this was an R rating. I mean, it's just nothing there. There's no carnage candy. There's no blood and gore. There was just nothing creative about this one. Other than the hook scene and the girl getting put in the freezer and her being hooked in the back and the guy getting knocked out in the hammer because that was the only remote homage and respect they paid to the original. The rest had no bearing whatsoever to what was going on. And that falls heavily on the lack of chainsaw use. It's called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You make a movie like this and you don't use a chainsaw on a single character other than a few chase scenes. That's all you get. It just felt like they used a brand and they slapped it on the name Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it sells. Something like that sells, as iconic as that. And they just went with it. Hey, let's make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie where Leatherface doesn't use his chainsaw. Okay then. Roll them. They might as well have changed this movie's film title to The Texas Massacre. That would have made more sense. They never used the chainsaw on anybody. We might as well make a Halloween movie without Michael Myers using his butcher knife. Or a Hellraiser movie without Pinhead using his chains. Or a Friday the 13th movie without Jason using his mask. And so on. You get the gesture. It's just complete disrespect and it just... No. Just no.
What the hell were you thinking?
And Leatherface was just a complete letdown. What the hell were they trying to do? I mean, I'm just... What the hell did I just watch? First of all, not scary. Second of all, not intimidating. Third, again, what the... Not a single thing about Leatherface in the Next Generation even remotely screamed intense or intimidating, interest, fear, remembrance. Just a total disgrace. I mean, Leatherface, once efficient, methodical, and nearly silent, is now reduced down to this screaming, petulant child with a weird cross-dressing fetish and a serious major lack of ineffectiveness and major lack of dispatching victims. swing a chainsaw around. Good for you. Now, mine being somewhat useful and use it on someone. God, I really miss Gunnar Hansen. And he was alive at the time of this release. Again, why didn't you come back, dude? Come on. And Velmer, played by Matthew McConaughey, just... what? Nothing against Matthew McConaughey. I've seen some of his other movies. Fortunately for him, it was way after this. I think they were just getting noticed shortly after this film been released. I think this was like one of his first movies ever that he's done. But nothing against Matthew McConaughey, but his character, it didn't do anything for me. He played this really nuts, just whacked out character. He was trying to be intimidating and scary, but it just didn't do anything for me. I mean, he was the only one that was kind of trying, I guess you could say, to put it a little fair, but it just came across as weird. What? And you have this whole side plot where this Illuminati type character comes over to their house, to the farmhouse, and tells them, you will do what I say. And I can't remember the exact quote because I was just in shock and awe. But point being, you have this whole side plot where this guy comes over and it's basically this control plot. Kind of like with the cult in Halloween 6. You know, where the cult tried to control Michael Myers, which, I mean, over the years I disliked as well. But again, why would you do that to someone as iconic as Leatherface and his family? Basically, you're just adding more insult to injury. That just didn't fly with me. It was stupid. It was dumb. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, is really not worth your time. I'm so sorry. I hate to say that, and I know I hadn't thrown out a review like this in a long while, and I hope it's not going to be a while yet before I have to do this. Or at all, as long as I'm doing this channel. But it just, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, was just not good. It's just not worth your time, to put it simple. And any TCM fan will probably agree. I know there's some of you out there that actually do like this, and that's fine. I'm not judging. We're all different. But it just was not for me. If you're a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan and a fan of the first three, you will not find a single redeeming notion of interest here. It's best to just skip this one because it is a swing and a miss. This is my first real bad rating in a while, and like I said, I hope that this is the last that I have to do this for a while. I'm not saying that there won't be, but I'm hoping that there will be a long time from now that I have to do this. I really do feel bad, but this one was just not for me. A little side history for the readings that I found, and I'm going to have to refer to this because I had to write this down because there's so much. But just a little side note here. Actors Matthew McConaughey and Renée Zellweger came into fame, I think, about 2 years after this. Sony was planning to re-release this like around that time. So Matthew McConaughey and Renée Zellweger, both actors, had the same agency. And they threatened to sue Sony if they, released it on the backs of their names. And that's how bad this was. They threatened to sue them if they did anything. I don't know what became of it because eventually they did re-release it like in limited theaters. And I guess that was okay because I didn't really hear that much out of this after that. But they threatened to sue the company because they felt like the actors was going to be exploited. Just an exploitation of them. So that's how bad this was. Just ponder on that just for a little bit, just for a second. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, did you find this at all interesting? Tell me the truth. I will not judge. Like I said, we're all different. Did you find this at all entertaining? Maybe you had a little bit better luck than I did. Or like me, did you find this to be the dumbest, the weakest, the basic runt of the family? Leave me your comment down below and give me your thoughts. Again, thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I apologize if it could have been like happier, but it is what it is. Like, subscribe, comment, and share, and I will for sure see you on the next one. Peace.